woman. So, the whole idea of the reasonable person, while it's a useful fiction, has come under a lot of fire in various areas of the law. I think to import it into originalism is to take one of the most problematic legal fictions and use it in a very unhistorically sound way. So where does this all leave us? To borrow my colleague Martin Flaherty, we need to start doing history right, because we've been doing it light at best. And so here's my sort of very simplified model. So if that's what the Constitutional Convention represented, by the way, it's not that beautiful picture of like light shining onto George Washington, which is a 19th century romantic image. That's the only contemporary image of the Constitutional Convention we have, actually, from a contemporary almanac. We have to accept that there are multiple intents, and whether or not you can sum those intents is, of course, still an open question, that people are engaged in strategic, not sort of ordinary speech. This is one of the few political cartoons we have of ratification, which looks a little bit different than our idea of the Federalist and federal farmer debating in philosophical niceties. Not that it's not important, but it's important to realize about 12 people read the Federalist at the time. It was not printed widely around New York, and its actual impact on New York ratification, according to most historians, of course, is minimal, although it did eventually join the canon of constitutional text, and within a decade or two, it was an important text. And of course, there's everything else. You got to read your Harrington, you got to read those newspapers, you've got to look at what's going on in state politics. Let's not forget Locke and Sidney and Blackstone. And that's just a simple model of what you need to do if you're going to do anything in this field. And frankly, I just don't think most originalism rises to that level of seriousness intellectually. I mean, there's some great originalism does, but by and large, it's just not really good. People have to, I think, if they're going to be serious, they have to do some very serious history, and they haven't done so yet. So where does this leave us? I was actually going to play you a song by The Who, Meet the New Boss, same as the Old Boss, one of the great rock anthems. So the major historical critique of originalism, there's been a lot of blogging about, why do historians say we can't understand the past, and they write amicus briefs and stuff like this. Well, first of all, amicus briefs are different than writing historical articles. Different rules apply. But fundamentally, the critique was not epistemological. If it was, we'd be out of business as historians. It was always empirical. Secondly, I think public meaning originalism is, as Laura Alexander charges, fundamentally parasitic on traditional intentionalism. Despite claims to the contrary, and talk about linguistic facts, there is no hard, transparent methodology that originalists can point to that is subject to professional investigation. You can't see it in any of the originalist theory. There is no guide to how you weight a source, for instance. And fundamentally, I think rather than great strides forward, which many originalists